Good afternoon. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Oklahoma City Metropolitan Area Public Schools Trust. First order of business is to approve the minutes of the March 20, 2012 meeting. I'd recognize a motion to that effect.
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. We'll vote. Approved. We have one suburban school district application for funding from Piedmont Public School District, $161,682.73. Mr. Todd, do you have information to add?
This is, as you said, for Piedmont Schools for Technology for $161,682.
Any questions? Is there a motion for approval?
Move approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. We'll vote. Passes. On the next item, I'm going to ask that we vote to enter an executive session to discuss, and we'll do that after the meeting, but we'll go ahead and have a motion now to enter into executive session. If I could have that motion, please.
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Approved. Moving into number 5. I'm sorry. Yes, moving into number 5. Oh, no, B. Okay, I'm sorry. Moving into 4B. Approved change order number 7 for Shidley Elementary School, an increase of $120,636.81, project ES 38.
That should really be done after the executive session, so let's do it.
That's why I tried to skip it. Moving into number 5, plans and specifications. We've got 3 sets today. First is to approve the final plan and specs for Taft Middle School. Authorize the Secretary to advertise for bids to be received on May 8th, project ES 70.
Mr. Chairman, we're pleased to bring you today final plans and specifications for Taft Middle School, and we have a presentation from Moda Architecture, Mr. Chong Branson.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Chong Branson with Moda Architecture. I'm here to present to you the final design of Taft Middle School. Before we began the project, we were given a list of scope to address to the project, which was to convert the existing building into a 691 student for 7th and 8th grade middle school, as well as renovate the existing building to enhance the learning environment and other list scope as outlined in the slide. Besides that, we were also given additional project scopes, which was to make the building ADA compliance by installing an elevator, changing the hardware to be ADA compatible, and provide ramps. We were asked to provide new finishes, floors in all of the classrooms, renovate the auditorium with replacement of ceilings, as well as many other details we'll go over later. We were also asked to provide exhaust system in the kitchen, replace lockers, and upgrade the electrical service in the existing building. After our preliminary analysis, we also discovered additional scopes of items that need to be addressed, such as life safety issues by providing fire suppression system. There were leaks in the roof that we had to replace, as well as modify. Modify drainage issues in the back of the building that was infiltrating into the building. We also discovered that we needed chairlifts where there were level changes occurred inside the building that wasn't addressed. We also had to replace all the mechanical system, air handling units, as well as rooftop units. And we also were asked to implement, for those of you that's familiar with the EatWise program, as an alternate bid item. We'll start with what we presented during the design process, which was to do a space allocation diagram. Going into this, our goal was to make as minimal change as possible to the existing functional space to keep the construction costs down as low as possible, meaning work with what we have and still meet our scope requirements with collaboration with working with the principal. I believe we achieved that goal. So we'll just kind of go over our floor plans and what we did. Taft Middle School is a 3-story building. It's got a basement, which is semi-recessed, first floor, which is the main level that comes to the grade level, and a third level, which is a majority of the classrooms that's stacked over the existing wings. So, as you can see in the basement level, like I said earlier, the spatial function in the basement level is as it was previously in terms of the kitchen and the dining room, and the dark blue remains as is. The classroom in the gold or tan color remains as is, and the green is the mechanical room. The red represents the vertical circulations. You see one red spot next to the blue diagram in the middle. That's the new elevator that connects all 3 floors. That's the area that has least impact to the building and be able to connect to all levels. This is the first floor, which is really the main level. Communal space, which is a gymnasium, auditorium, and library. That's all the existing program, so we're renovating without changing the functions of it. So in the center are the community spaces. The pink represents elective courses, and orange represents the administration area that had some modification because they were spread all throughout the school, so we consolidated to a close proximity of the front entrance. The gold tan color represents the core classrooms. And then again, the red represents the vertical circulations, and the gray represents the horizontal circulation path. This is the second floor. It's really a carbon copy of the lower floor with the core classrooms in the greenish colors, and the circulation in that tan color, and the red represents the vertical circulations. We'll go more in details of what we're doing in terms of design and finishes now. This is the basement level again. The speckled light color represents the existing terrazzo floors. They're in great condition, so we're not having to do much changes on that. The kitchen, again, is also a tile floor, so we're not having to do many changes. We are touching up any areas that needs repair, such as cracks and areas that have delaminated, so we're fixing all that up. The gray represents the classrooms, and that gray represents the VCT floor, which will receive new floor finishes. Besides the floor, all the public space walls will receive new coat of paint and new ceiling tiles, as well as new light fixtures. Again, this is the first floor. We'll start off with the circulation, which is the speckle pattern. It's a terrazzo. We're not doing much with that because it's, again, in great condition. The gray represents the VCT floors, and again, those will all be new floors. The gymnasium, which is next to that that red rectangle, which represents bleacher, will get new gym floor. And the classrooms, which are the perimeter, you'll see 2 different colors. One is the VCT, and the other, the brown color, represents wood floors. What we tried to do was keep majority of the existing classrooms were wood floors, but they were all badly damaged. And our intent was to maintain as much of the wood floor as possible. And so what we thought on the classrooms that you see are the ones that had better than 50% usable floor space. So what we're doing is reallocating some of the floors from the bad classrooms and putting into these and salvaging as much of the wood floor as possible. As well as the library will maintain the existing parquet wood floor. There's some damages to that from the roof leak that I mentioned earlier in that floor, so we'll replace 50% of that. So we'll maintain the same existing terrazzo floors in that space. And this is the third floor, which is very similar to what we saw on the main level. We'll go more into the finishes, colors, and design of what we're proposing. If you're aware of what Taft looks like, it's built in the 20s during the Art Deco era. We wanted, it's a beautiful building from the exterior, but it has no resemblance on the interior through time with changes that occur there. So what we wanted to do was bring back that era, time, and the theme back into the interior of the building. So our first step was to use the similar colors that what they would have used back then, which are the colors you see here, and the materials, some of the materials you see. What you see on the diagram to the right is what a typical VCT classroom floor would look like with the colors and patterns. The rendering on the left is what we're proposing for the auditorium after we renovate it. We'll get a complete renovation. We'll get new seats, new curtains, new ceilings, and new lights, as well as all new paints. The things you see on that opening at the proscenium and the sidewalls, those are all existing details. What we're doing is basically going there and touching up and adding new colors to enhance what we thought it was back then. To the right is the new gymnasium, which will get new with floors. The existing bleachers remain, that's recently purchased not too long ago, as well as the mechanical system in that space. To the left is a view what you see in the as you enter and see the administration area. You see a full height glass wall with partial decoration details that let you see into the building of the administration with sandblasted finishes on that, and with some details at the ceiling. So we took little care in that area, the area that you first see when you walk in. To the right is what a typical corridor would look like. The scope really didn't address what we need to do in terms of make it unique, different from what you typically see. All we're doing, our scope includes just to basically repaint the walls and replace the ceiling and lights. But we're already spending our money on the ceiling when we're having to put the fire suppression system. So what we thought was, with that money, why don't we do something different and unique and really enhance our details? Well, and that was accomplished by doing that ceiling detail, which is unique from other projects. Basically, it's a floating cloud system that's hung on wires, and it looks expensive, but really, after further analysis, we determined that it's the same cost as putting a typical lay-in ceiling because of the constructability and lesser amount of material that we're using than just fully covering it. So there's no cost increase to the project by doing this. So we'd like to go quickly over our current schedule. We just wrapped up our final design and construction drawings. And if it goes as planned and goes out for bid, we expect construction to begin 1st of June. Hopefully they will have all summer as part of the critical path of construction to begin the construction. And we anticipate about 18 months of construction time, which will end at the year of 2013. And going over the cost summary, we were given a fixed fee of a little over $5.4 million, and our last estimate came in at 5.6, which is $156,831 over our estimate. But the time between when we made this slide and when the drawings went out, we were able to discover about $90,000 savings off of that difference in redesigning some of the mechanical system as well as some of the things we did with the tuck pointing in the building. So we were able to take $90,000 off of that differences, we think. Alternate number one we're proposing as the Eat Wise program was at $395,000, and we also include another alternate, which was to replace the existing lockers, which is $90,000. Before I conclude, I'd like you to take a look at that detail, that photo. That is a typical detail of what you see at TAF. This is at the tower, but that detail is throughout. As you can see, this is kind of the inspiration and of why we took the time and detail, and came up with some of our concepts to try to implement some of that, what was originally done, back into the inside of the building. So I'd like to open this up to questions and answers.
Are there any questions? Yes.
First, on the Eat Wise program, also, my understanding is Eat Wise is basically the ability to cook meals at school. What would that alternate entail? Is it mostly equipment, or is it mostly building?
That $395 includes about $210,000 equipment alone. And then 185 is some of the infrastructure that we'll have to do, which is mainly plumbing and a grease trap. Because it is semi-recessed, we had to put the grease trap inside the kitchen to get the flow working properly. So that's some of the increase. We are in the base bid upgrading the kitchen system electrically to be able to implement the EWISE program in the future, as well as modification in the serving lines that is also designed for the EWISE program. So there are things that we are putting into the base bids to meet the EWISE program at a smooth transition.
Other questions? Yes.
You touched on parking and paving as part of the project. You didn't really discuss what that entails, and if you would, talk a little bit about how much coordination you'll have with the architect for Taft Stadium.
Actually,
and how much...
We had minimal amount of conversation with the architect on that because there is a boundary barrier and a set placement already there that splits the two projects.
Well, there's a game at Taft Stadium that's ignored, and I'm wondering if that is ignored.
There's a game that would be probably the responsibility of the principal to how they want to allocate the parking requirements on that. But we are providing new parking up to the first drive on the north, in the on the school park, where the ballers are, a little short of the ballers.
It would seem to me that actually the parking should be encouraged to be shared. And I don't know if there's separate property ownerships or anything like that, but, it's unusual. There's only a few times a year that the stadium is used, but when it is used, it seems like the sharing should be encouraged.
I probably concur with that, but again, that's a decision that will be made by somebody else.
Other questions? Yes.
I do want to ask a question about the drainage issue.
Yes.
Can you elaborate a little bit more about what specific is the problem, and
Sure.
is it causing any other structural problems to the building?
Well, there's no structural problem. The problem was there's a little alcove on the south end that's a low part of the building, but throughout the years, there's an area drain there that's been clogged up. So there was nowhere for the water to go except try to go around the building, and the way it was graded before, it butted into the building, so it slowly seeped through the walls and back into the classroom, causing wattage in the floor. So we are basically redraining everything, regrading that area, and cleaning out all the drains to alleviate on that issue.
So there's floor damage where the water has come in?
There was, and
Okay.
that all gets replaced with new floor finishes.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions?
Carl, I feel I'd be remiss if I didn't ask Patrick's question about the roof.
Yes.
Is the partial roof, as a part of the additional scope, going to take care of it, or should we consider a full roof?
Well, majority of it, in fact, all the remaining roof are still under warranty. There's two different types of roof. There's a built-up gravel roof and the foam insulation roof. The most recent roof, I believe, is the gravel roof, which is still under full warranty, and then the foam roof is still, I believe it was 6 years ago when they installed that. The area that is leaking is over the library, which is a small portion, and that area is a minimal cost to replace. So we are in the base bid going to replace that with proper drainage. There's only one drain on that, so if that drainage gets clogged, the water has nowhere to go, and we think that's where the problem occurs, is that it seeps through the walls and comes out back into the floor, damaging that parquet floor.
All right. Other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there a motion for approval?
Move approval.
Is there a second? Second. Vote. Approved. Next item, we're being asked to approve the final plan and specifications for Jefferson Middle School and authorize the Secretary to advertise for bids to be received April 24th, 2012.
Mr. Chairman, we're pleased to bring you another set of final plans for Jefferson Middle School, and today we have a presentation from MA Plus Architects, Mr. Gary Armbruster.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Again, my name's Gary Armbruster. I'm going to go through this as quickly as I can, but please feel free to raise your hand and wave if you have any questions. Jefferson will be transferred into a contemporary 7th through 8th grade facility when 6th grade's moved out. for 724 students. Currently, we are renovating all 134,000 plus square feet, with many of the code issues such as fire sprinkler and other items being addressed in the renovation. This is a short list of all the site and facility items that we will be repairing or dealing with in the project. Again, this is just a short list of those items, and this list is continued on the next page. But the thing I want to point out that's important are the alternates 1 through 7. Alternate 1 and 2 being exterior window replacement. Alternate 3, replacing classroom ceilings throughout the building. 4, replacing drop-down gates in the corridors. 5, providing new window blinds. 6, replacing stage curtains and rigging system at the stage. And 7, providing sports flooring in the south gym in lieu of tile flooring. And that 7th one was a specific request by the school. In the site plan, we are addressing broken sidewalks, broken fence areas. We're not adding any parking because it meets current Oklahoma City standards. We are installing a new drive on the east side to complete the fire lane around the school. The thing I also want to point out are the 12 classrooms that are shown as rectangles at the top of the page, and that's where the temporary classrooms will be during the one-year-long construction. We will phase 12 classrooms at a time. Students in and out of those classrooms, they are ADA accessible. So that's how we are renovating this in such a short time, moving that many classrooms around. This is a blow-up of the overall 134,000 square foot plan, and the yellow is extensive remodel, and that's taking a room and basically gutting it and starting over. Major remodel is in green, and that's basically all new finishes, and the minor remodel is in brown. So if you look at it as a whole, you see a lot of yellow and green, and you can see we're renovating extensively or major remodeling Jefferson. The next plan is a blow-up of the north end of Jefferson, so you can see some of the classroom names and what's going in these areas. But essentially in the major remodel areas, if it's a classroom now, it's going to be a classroom when we're done. The extensive remodel areas are typically a new area going in there, unless it's a restroom, which is shown in yellow as well. This is a blow-up of the south end of the school. Again, same color scheme, the extensive and major remodel. You can see we're touching every area of the building. And then this is a blow-up of the admin area where it's all extensive remodel. We worked with the Jefferson Middle School staff and principals to come up with a layout that fit their needs, and they approved this plan. Main entry rendering. Some of the things we're doing, that glass wall that you see to the right is a new security wall that we are adding at most entrances that are used for main entrances for the school. This will create a more secure environment for students entering or exiting, and will stop people from just walking in the building as they are able to do today. They'll have to be buzzed in by the staff. Using school colors throughout, the blues, the grays, and the whites. Cafeteria rendering. Again, this is a major remodel area, all new flooring, ceiling, lighting, using school colors. And the media center, again, a major remodel area. And then this is a view of those three renderings, as well as the school colors being used throughout in the tile flooring, the carpeting, the walls, etc. Cost estimate, the program budget was a little over $5.9 million. Currently, our construction estimate is $6.1, and we're $138,000 and some change over budget. You can see the list of alternates at the bottom that I read earlier with the cost of each of these alternate items listed for a total of $793,000 in alternates. Design schedule. Schematic design is complete, preliminary design complete, construction documents are what we're asking for approval for today to go into bidding in April, ending in April, construction beginning in May, and being complete next August 2013. And that's all I have. Any questions?
Other questions?
Just one. On the alternates, when visiting with the staff, did they indicate any order of preference they would like to see? If any of the alternates were to get done, did they mention any? And if so, can you point those out to us?
Definitely windows.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's why I wouldn't say that this is necessarily an order of importance, but windows were very important to them.
Other questions?
Just one more comment in that I've spent a lot of time in that gym, and I know that tile is a safety hazard. Any attention to that area or not?
Well, with the VCT, we were just meeting the design standards for the school district, which is what they required at the time, and that's why we added the sports flooring as alternate 7, so we could price it. And they are looking at a grant for that, so, and we're working with them. If they get the grant, then we'll take the VCT out, get that money back, and then put in that sports flooring.
Is sports flooring hardwood, or is it?
It's that Mondo, it's that rubbery floor, so it's good for, better for sports injuries, less sports injuries.
Gary, do you have a question?
Gary, how do we prioritize regarding the ceiling to include the public areas in the primary funds and then an alternate for the classroom?
Well, we did a lot of work trying to get the project in budget, as you can see, $800,000 almost, and all public areas of the school were touched, so that's why it was done first. That was the main reason to hit all the public areas, because we're redoing the media center, cafeteria, everything else.
Other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Need a motion for approval of the final plan and specifications for Jefferson Middle School.
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded in unison. We vote. Approved. Next item, approve the final plan and specifications for Adams Elementary re-roof and authorize the secretary to advertise for bids to be received May 8th.
Mr. Chairman, this is a re-roof project for Adams Elementary. It is, we don't have a presentation today. It was, the plans were done by our on-call architect, Design Architects Plus, and it is to replace an existing foam roof there on the building.
Questions?
Yeah, what is the cost estimate if it's done?
I believe it's about $450,000.
Other questions? I'd recognize a motion for approval.
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. We'll vote. Approved. Thank you. Next, we're being asked to approve a revised maintenance bond, accept the Green Pastures Elementary School project, and place revised maintenance bond into effect as of June 1, 2011, project ES40.
Mr. Chairman, this is, as you said, Green Pastures Elementary. Project has been final, and we're ready to accept it.
Any questions? Recognize a motion for approval.
Move approval.
It's been moved. Or second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. We'll vote. Approved. We have 6 change orders. In the interest of time, I would ask if we could vote on all those at the same time, and if there's questions about each one as we go through before we vote, we can address them. Questions?
I have a question on D.
D?
D is in Dornell.
D. Are there any on A, B, or C? Seeing none, D. Okay. Anthony?
Okay, on item 2, it says that the fire marshal is only requiring 1 connection instead of the 2 that was specified. So why does the cost go up? Why would you not either just go ahead and do 2 or else have a deduct?
I'm going to have to refer to my senior project manager, Todd Woodward, on that.
Hi, Todd Woodward, Master Kids. The design called out for 2 fire department connections. This would basically leave the 2 connections in their existing location, but it pays for the plumbing to connect the 2 together. Cap 1 off at the outside exterior wall so that there's only 1 on the other side of the building. So we're basically paying to provide plumbing connecting the 2 connections. If we were to redesign the whole system, the problem is all of the plumbing, all the piping's already on site, and it would cause a complete redesign of the fire alarm system if we were to redesign it.
Okay, but why couldn't you just keep two?
It's the requirement of the fire marshal. We really don't have a choice there.
Mr. Francisco, I think typically the problem is the fire department likes to go to a single connection in order to charge the system if they have to, and if there's two, it could cause problems with not knowing what zone is what, so they like to have a central location that they can do the whole building.
I'm asking you to explain the fire marshal's logic, I'm sorry.
You should know better than that. Okay, is there any other questions about any of the change orders? Seeing none, I recognize a motion to approve all 6 change orders.
Move approval.
Been moved, is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded, we'll vote. Approved. We've got 2 items for concurrence with Independent School District number 89. One is for an architectural services on Mark Twain, Putnam Heights, Southern Hills, and Stan Waddy. And also, another one is to concur with Independent School District in approving the contract for architectural services with Design Architects Plus and others on other schools. Any questions or comments about these 2 items? Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded, we'll vote. Approved. Next item, Mr. General Manager Substitute.
Actually, I'm not.
No, you are the General Manager. That's right, you are the General Manager, I just can't keep it straight.
Presently, we have 24 schools in construction. Final acceptance for the following schools is scheduled in April: Johnson, Nichols Hills, Schuyler, Fillmore, Lee, Hoover, Southern Hills, and one of the early start fire alarm projects. I guess 2 of them, alarm projects 1 and 2. There are really 7 schools in design at this point in time. We've got 4 middle schools, 1 alternative schools, 1 roofing project, and those are all set to be bid. Jefferson's going to bid on April 24th, Taft on May 8th, Adams roof replacement on May 8th, Rogers May 15th, Webster May 22nd, and Emerson alternative on June 5th. And when that's done, we're down to the downtown elementary school and the administrative building. So we're getting through the design pieces of it. We still got a lot to build yet, but on the 07 bond issues, good bids were received today on the Coolidge, Van Buren, Hayes. We're waiting the architect's recommendation as to the lowest and best bid. Monroe and West Nichols Hills Elementary Schools and Wheeler classrooms and Nichols Hills Elementary School gym are to bid on April 10th, and 7 additional schools are in the preliminary report phase for classrooms and gyms. Groundbreakings and grand openings. Capitol Hill Elementary School groundbreaking will be Friday, April 6th. Buchanan Elementary grand opening will be Monday, April 9th. Thelma R. Parks Elementary School grand opening Friday, April 13th. And Roosevelt Middle School groundbreaking Friday, May 11th. All of those are 1:30.
Any questions? Are there comments by trustees, staff, citizens? Seeing none, we'll move into executive session, and we will come back to adjourn afterwards and vote on a couple of items. Okay, we're back in session. I would like to ask for a motion under number 4 to approve the settlement agreement between the Oklahoma City Metropolitan Area Public Schools Trust, TDC Construction Company, and Granite Re, Inc. for Shidler Elementary Project ES 38. I'd recognize a motion to that effect.
So moved.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. We'll vote. Approved. Now, next item is number 4B. We being asked to approve change order number 7 for Shidler Elementary School, an increase of $120,636.81, project ES 38. I'd ask for a motion for that to be approved. It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. We'll vote. It passes. Being no other business, we're adjourned.